Hi there, it's Layle with Layle by Mail. I'm very excited to share with you a free class. I have taken a number of my Layle by Mail branded products and put together a very simple tag clipboard mini book. So in the class, I have used my 6x8 graph papers as a base to create some clipboards using the library card stamp, along with one of the clips, that little guy, in the Clip It stamp set, and the coordinating metal die. So using that coordinating metal die. I have paired that with some products from the Simple Vintage Holly Jolly collection from Simple Stories. So I have included in the link in the description box below a link that will take you to a page on my website where I've linked all of the products that I use to put the project together. So join me as I walk you through how I created this wonderful little keepsake project that you could use to document the holiday season this year. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in, and I will show you how I put the project together. So it is super easy. I have included a link in the description box of the video down below of the different products and tools that I have used to put my project together. You will find all of those on my website at laylebymail.com. But you can also pull from your stash and use any type of Christmas paper that you have. When I'm done, I'll also show you where I've basically done the exact same thing, the same concept, but I have used fall paper to create a similar album that you could use for Thanksgiving. All right, so in this particular little project here, I am using the beautiful Simple Stories, Simple Vintage Holly Jolly collection. So it is just a beautiful, great, vintage kind of kitschy collection that, I don't know about you, but it just makes me so happy. So I thought it'd be perfect for a project like this. So to start, I am using two different things for the base of the project. I am using my Layle by Mail 6x8 graph paper, and I am using the paper from the 6x8 paper pad. So I will be using the graph paper or the grid to create the base, kind of the tags, if you will. And then I will be using the pattern paper for the clips. So when I approach a project like this, I find, excuse me, the easiest way to do that is to kind of do an assembly line. So I stamped out all of my kind of bases first, so both the library cards as well as all of the clips. And then I cut the library cards and then used my die cutting machine to use the metal die to die cut those little clips, kind of the toppers for your library cards. So the 6x8 graph paper is perfect to fit two of your library cards. So I'm using the library card stamp, and I have one of those here that I've already used. So let's go ahead and pull that guy out. As we do that, I am using a larger stamping block. So this is a 4.5 by 6.5 stamping block. I want to make sure I obviously have a stamping block that's large enough because that library card is a bit larger. And actually, while we're talking about the size of the library card, or while we're talking about the library card, why don't we talk about the size? As I'm loading it onto my stamping block, I find it a little bit easier to place my stamp face down on my work surface and then lift it from there. That way, I'm not kind of fumbling trying to place that, especially when it's a little bit of a larger stamp like that. So that stamp is, well, let's see, it is the size of a standard library card. So it is about 3 1/8 by a little bit taller than 5 inches. So about 3 1/8 by 5. Okay, so I can put one up side by side. And the way that I chose to do these was to place my library cards back to back. So I'd give it a little bit more stability. So I stamped a red, stamped a green, and then adhered them together. So I ended up doing twice as many tags as I needed, or twice as many library cards as I needed tags. So if that makes sense. One, to adhere back to back. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. I am using 2 Distress Oxide inks, Barn Door and Rustic Wilderness. So these coordinated very well with the Simple Vintage Holly Jolly collection. So let's go ahead and get that inked up there. And I will do one of these. Well, I'll do one red and one green and then put them together. And then I've already kind of, like I said, assembly line pre-configured or pre-built the others. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and actually I'm going to do this. It's a little bit easier to manage the stamping block landscape as opposed to portrait. And because that is a, because my paper has a grid on it, I can kind of use those grid lines as guidelines, if you will, right? As kind of as guidelines, if you will, as I am placing that stamp. Now this one, I am making sure to apply even pressure all over that stamp because it is a larger stamp. I may want to make sure that I apply even pressure. And there we go. There's that beautifully stamped card. Let me go ahead and clean that barn door color off of the stamp. And I'm using a stamp chamois to do that. Again, all the tools and products that you see me use here in this little free class, I have linked in the description box of the video below. All right, so I've cleaned that off. Now, super important, I also want to dry that off because I'm going to use that right away again. I'm going to apply Rustic Wilderness ink. I want to dry that off, and I'm using a microfiber cloth to dry that off. It's really important that I dry before I apply ink again. I am using the Distress Oxides, which are pigment-based inks. They are water reactive. So if there's even a little bit of moisture on that stamp, it is going to interact with the ink and kind of play with the pigment a little bit. So if it's not something you're intending to do, you may be getting a different look or a little bit of a different color than you anticipated. So it's just a good idea, one, to clean between ink colors and then definitely dry between ink colors. I used a microfiber cloth just so I'm sure not to transfer any lint or dust or little fine hairs or something like that onto the stamp. All right, because it is lint free. Okay, let's go ahead and do this other guy. And again, I will make use of those grids there to make sure I am stamping somewhat evenly, right? Somewhat evenly. Again, applying nice pressure all around. If I have a MISTI, which I do, I just didn't pull it out. A MISTI is a platform stamping tool. I'll show you that in just a sec. If I am mass producing these, I can use that stamping platform. There we go. I can use that stamping platform and excuse me. I can place my stamp here and then cut down my base paper into the size and place the paper here, stamp, take it away, reapply ink, stamp, take it away, reapply ink. Makes it a little bit faster, especially if you are working with kind of an assembly line process like we talked about that I'm doing. So I'll link to the MISTI. I use that if I am doing a lot of assembly line work or if I'm doing kind of repetitive process where it really is helpful if I am placing the stamp in the same place every time. But for today, we don't need that. And it's definitely not something that you need for a project like this. As long as you have a large enough stamping block for your large stamp, then you're good. All right, so I have that ready to go. Now let's move on to the clips. So I have used papers from the Simple Vintage Holly Jolly paper pad. There are so many great Christmas patterns in this pad that I kind of had a hard time choosing, so I kind of didn't choose. I used quite a few of the papers, some of the more neutral patterns. So I used that red check, I used a green plaid, and you can see on one single sheet of paper, I was able to get quite a few of those little clips out of all of those different patterns. All right. I think I did I do 6? Yes, I did 6. All right, so let's get these little guys off to the side. These are, now that you can see them here, Those are the patterns that I used, all right? So you can take any type of, obviously, coordinating pattern. It's nice if you can get some solids in there along with a little bit of pattern and vary your colors. Okay, so let me grab, I'll just start with this one because this is a fairly simple, we should be able to see it very well. Let's take our smaller stamping block. You'll notice I just moved from a large stamping block to a small stamping block. And I did that because, in my opinion, as you're stamping, if you can right size your stamping block to the stamp that you were using, it just makes it much more manageable process. If you have a tiny stamp on a large block, sometimes it's hard to get a nice even impression, and anything that we can do to make the whole stamping process easier, am I right? I am using one of the clip stamps from the Clip It stamp set. So it's a 3x4 stamp set. You have 2 large clips and then 1 small clip. So I will grab my versions of those. Well, my versions, you know what I mean. My stamps that have been used as opposed to brand new in the package. I'm going to go with that one. So we'll go ahead and load that up onto our stamping block, like so. And what's nice about using paper from a 6x8 paper pad, as opposed to paper from a 12x12, your pattern is scaled to size. So let's take this guy. This one right here, that check is scaled down to 6x8. If I was cutting up and doing this in a 12x12, my checks would be much larger, which wouldn't necessarily be a problem, but I would not see as much of that pattern in that little clip that I'm stamping. So I am going to ink this little guy up here. This is a very well loved and used stamp. I use this one quite often. So I am going to basically, again, do my assembly line here, right? So there it is. And I will continue doing that all the way down, really both sides of this sheet. Now, I'll just do 3 just so we can kind of go through that process, and I have some that I can use when I am doing the die cutting. But really, in one sheet, one 6x8 sheet, 1, 2, 3, 4, I could get 4 to 6, so 8 to 12, depending on, if I was a little bit close together, I might be able to get 6, but at least 8 clips from one piece of paper. So they go pretty far on your little 12x12, or excuse me, on your little 6x8 there. All right, so next up, I can either fussy cut each of these clips, or I can use the coordinating metal die set. So that metal die set has the dies needed for each of the stamps that we saw on the stamp set. So this will make it, the process go much faster, especially when I have a shape like this. It's a little bit more intricate, a little bit more involved. So then I am not, So next up, I could fussy cut these if I wanted, but if I have the metal dies, it makes life so much easier. So I'll be using the Clip It metal die set. These coordinate with the 3 stamps on the Clip It stamp. And that just makes the process go much faster, especially if I am kind of assembly lining all of these, if I'm doing quite a bit of clips. So here are the dies. I will grab that die and we'll get the machine ready and be back in a sec. All right, so the die cutting machine that I am using here is the Griffin Empress Mini. This is an electronic machine, so instead of manually cranking my plates through, I just press a little button and it pulls them through. Really doesn't matter what type of die cutting machine you use, whether it's electronic, whether it's manual, whether it is a mini or whether it is large. This is the one that I like to use on camera just because it fits in the space. All right, and now we need our plates. So we have bottom plate, top plate, the magnetic mat, and then I'm going to use a little metal shim. You don't need to use a metal shim, and as you're working with a different machine, you start to figure out maybe when you need to use a metal shim and when you don't. It's just going to add a little bit more height in your stack there. All right, so here's my bottom plate, and I'm basically making just a little sandwich. Bottom plate, on top goes my magnetic mat. I need to trim this little guy down. Forgot to do that because I am using a mini machine. My width is obviously not as wide as a regular standard machine. I can put this whole thing on if I'd like, even though I'm only doing one right now. And I am going to place the dimensional part face down. I have my design faced up. We will get that so it's pretty well lined up. Oops, I forgot my metal shim. Let's go ahead and put that in under there. Put that there. And I'm just basically making a sandwich. Put that on top like that. Turn my machine on and press run. And that is just going to run that right through. You heard kind of that click. That is some pretty heavy pressure in that machine that as it's rolling, you can hear it as it is kind of pressing through that metal die. And that guy is done. So let's get that out of here. And as I remove my little die, pick that up, and there we go. So now my clip is cut out perfectly. I didn't have to do any fussy cutting. So if you're doing a project like this where you are doing, and again, an assembly line, and you are doing many, many, many clips, definitely I would invest in the metal die because it just makes your life so much easier, right? You're not spending hours doing all your fussy cutting. Okay, so now that we have one of those cut, I am going to, this is what we stamped, right? And I had already pre-cut those. So we have two of those that have already been cut. There is my red, there is my green. As I mentioned, I decided to adhere two back to back, all right? So this would be a little bit thicker, be a little bit more substantial pages. I'm adhering both of those back to back like that. And then I am going to adhere two clips back to back. So kind of what I did as I was working on this, I would put some kind of a green clip on the red side and then some kind of a red clip on the green side. So my little stacks of all of my different patterns. Why don't we do that one on the other side? So let's grab our little tape runner here. And put, the key here is just making sure, it doesn't necessarily matter where you place the first one. You just want to make sure that all of the subsequent little clips are all in the same place so that when you add all these to the ring to create your little mini book, that they are all the same height. All right, so that is what I have done here. I have repeated that process, taking two library cards, a red and a green, and then adhering a clip and then a clip to the top. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I could continue 7 now. I could continue that process, just repeating depending on how many, how many little pages I wanted in my book. All right, so now comes the fun part. We've kind of, this is fun, right? But now comes the fun part. We have kind of done a lot of our assembly line work. And this type of work is great if you've had a long day and you still want to be creative, but you don't want to have to think. This type of work is just kind of machine, right? You're just kind of doing the same thing over and over and over. So whether you're doing it at a crop or maybe a retreat, or it's just the end of a long day and you're maybe binge watching something on TV, that's the best time, in my opinion, to do something like that. So that when you're ready to be creative, then you're ready to hit the ground running. Okay, so I am going to use a piece of clear acetate for my cover. So both the front cover and the back cover. And actually I'll have a 2-layer front cover. So 12 by 12 piece of acetate. Again, everything that I'm using you will find on my website at laylebymail.com, and I've included a link to where I've kind of put everything that I've used all on one page so it's easy to find. So 12 by 12 clear acetate, and I need to trim that so it is the height and width of my pages here. All right, so let's just take a look. We need it to be it's probably just easier to do this, right? Sometimes it's easier, instead of measuring, it's much easier just to line it up just the way you need it. Then you know it's the perfect size. All right, so it's a little bit wider than 3 inches. And then I need the length. And the length with that clip. And now obviously the length is going to vary based on where you are adhering your clip. But for me, that's right about 6 inches. So combined, those two pieces together are right about 6 inches, which is great because now I have front and back cover already adhered, which means I could make more of these using that same 12 by 12 piece of acetate. All right. Because this is I want this to be kind of like a little tag book, I need to use a ring, right? I need to use an O-ring so I can apply, add all of my tags onto the ring. If you, I don't sell the rings individually on my website, but if you place an order for any of the supplies and in the notes section, you tell me that you are going to make the project, I will include one of those little black rings with your order. All right, so now I need to punch holes in the top of my acetate pieces. So I'm just using that as a little template, and I just laid them one on front, one on the back, just so I'm only punching once. Now, if you have a less than sturdy hole punch, I would suggest that you do those separately. You don't try to cut through each of those at once. My little power punch there did pretty well, but I just need to come in and snip that little part that did not come off. All right, so cover, clear cover. I like to do clear covers because sometimes it's fun to add some dimensional things to the cover that you can add on the clear cover as opposed to the page that's underneath it. If you put something on the page underneath it, then it's kind of, your cover's gonna kind of be a little bit wobbly and you know what I mean. Okay, so I pulled this paper. I thought this was such a fun paper out of that 6x8 paper pad. And watch this. When I take my little clear cover, if I line this up right over here to the edge of that green that says Christmas, it will take me right to the top of the Santa Claus. I will not have the yourself, right? The yourself is a little bit too wide, but I can put something over the top of that so we don't even see it. Okay, so let's go ahead and probably what I'm just going to do is get my little trimmer out here again. And instead of doing any measuring, I'm just going to lay this right on top, exactly where I need it. It's actually works really well that, well, you know what? Let's make it a little bit wider. I don't want to get too much of my little reindeer in there. All right, there we go. Make sure I've got that still lined up over here. There we go. Now, obviously, I could have traced that if I wanted, but a little bit easier this way. I don't know about easier. There we go. And I'm not worried about that part of that little now showing because I'm going to add something to the bottom of that. Okay. There is kind of the start of my little cover. Have your a merry little Christmas, right? And so I have some partial words here. Have is okay. Your is partial. Merry, they're okay. And then little is partially cut off. I am not worried about that. I will add some, fun things to the cover. We won't even see that. But as you are looking for whatever it is that you want to be your base, just kind of keep in mind, if you were cutting down part of a larger pattern, that it's something you'll still be able to work with. Okay, so let's go ahead and punch our little cover here. A little magnet. Like so. And let's see how we might want to decorate that little cover before we get too deep in. I have pulled the mechanicals. These are metal stars, 3 different shapes. 3 different shapes. They're all stars. They're 3 different sizes from a bundle that I have on the website. And that bundle is the stars and then the numbers. So these are fun for any of your Christmas or holiday projects, right? So let's go ahead and look at these guys first and see what we might want to use. We know we kind of need to cover up that little part there, right? So let's see. If we took one of these guys, maybe put that there, that would be fun. And then you still see a little bit of green under there, but that's okay. All right, I have a little glue dot here. And I am going to just, I think the easiest way to do this, because I can't really set that guy down flat, is to put my glue dot down and then place that little star on top of it. And then I'll just peel that backing away. There we go. And we'll put that little guy right about there. So it's just, we're covering up that little partial word. Okay. Now, make sure you can see that so I don't have the glare in there. I am going to add a little bit of pom-pom trim to the bottom. So I have pre-cut just some different colors here, not necessarily knowing what I would want to use. I have red, green, black. I had a white. I could use a white as well. I think we'll go with the green, or excuse me, the red. That'll keep it nice and festive. I just ran a very thin, kind of narrow row of adhesive right back there, just so it will hold it in place for me as I am trying to staple it. I want to make sure to get that pretty straight along the bottom. And I'd like to have pom-poms ending on each edge. All right, so there we go. Now, my adhesive is not permanent here, right? I need to make sure to now come in with my little stapler and just maybe do one on the edge, one on the middle, and one on the bottom. All righty. I did end up still, I decided to put the back side of that trim, or the top part of that trim on the back, so you couldn't really see it. So you're still seeing a little bit of that light, but that's okay. I think it's fine. All right, we are well on our way. We may need to just plump up our little pom-poms here a tad because they are, they're going to be a little bit squished and flat. And there is the start of our fun little tag album, right? Isn't that fun, you guys? So easy. This is going to be so easy to do. All right, now I have to do this because if you know me, you just know this is what I do. I have to come in and outline the edges of that. It just looks so odd to me if I don't. Just looks too weird. Too weird, too weird, too weird. And we'll do it along the bottom as well, just a little bit. So it's kind of meeting up with those staples. All right, and now we are ready to start assembling our little album, the base of our album. So I have just coordinated. I'm starting with green, red, kind of a greenish red on the green, and then green on the red. So I just kind of mix things up a little bit. I didn't want to have in any place two of the same patterns for the clips near each other. So I've kind of split those up, and I can continue to build these pages and build and build. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 so far. I also have some that I've pre-done. So as I do my little assembly here, I am going to create a couple of pieces that I would like to go in between each of my tags. So we're going to kind of zhuzh it up a bit. And I have pulled 2 papers also from the 6x8 pad. So we have the little kind of mini tags, and then we have the journal elements, all right? So these are 6x8 versions of the larger 12x12 papers, which makes it nice because here our tags are shorter and narrower than they would be in a 12x12. This is an example. That is a 12x12. This is the mini version from the 6x8. So actually kind of the smaller version makes it a little bit easier for me to see things. So I'm going to grab the trimmer and we will trim those little tags. Get a smaller trimmer in here. Collection is just so stinking cute. I can't even stand it. Simple Vintage Holly Jolly. If you kind of have jumped in the middle all of the products that I am using for this mini class. This little free class here, you will find in the link in the description box below. I put everything on one page on my website that I use, so it'll make it really, really easy for you to find it. And it's a free class. There are no instructions, but really you don't need any instructions, right? That's the beauty of a project like this. We don't need to worry about measuring anything because we are using our tags, our library cards as our base. We are using our clips for the toppers, and then that is giving you kind of the height that you need. And from there, you're creating your cover, and then you're just starting to decorate inside. So, like I said, I'll be adding a couple of little small tags in between each of my big tags, like in between each of my clipboards. And then adding some die cut pieces and just really kind of making it fun as we go. And this is really kind of a use as much as you'd like or as little as you'd like. This would be a really fun project to do with kids. So if you have kids or grandkids, basically, if your kids are a little bit older, you could have them do the stamping. But if not, you could do all the stamping for them and kind of get all of this part put together for them. And then you could give them stickers and different things to decorate with. All right, did we get all of those cut? I think we got all of those cut. Let's go ahead and maybe trim these little guys just so they're in our tag shape. What's fun about these guys, you have just a nice little green pattern on the back, green plaid. So it's really decorative as it is. You don't need to write anything on there. Well, it'd be hard to write on there, but you don't need to necessarily add anything on there if you didn't want to. Now, as I am trimming these, let's talk about why I've used the library card as the base as opposed to maybe plain white cardstock. Because with the library card, obviously you have the built-in lines. So if you're doing any kind of writing and you struggle with writing a straight line, all right, who's out there with me, right? We struggle sometimes with writing on a straight line, that you have that already built in to your base there with the library card. What would be really fun with a project like this, I mean, there's so many different ways you could take this. If you have lots, again, of kids in your life, and it could even be adults, you could have them write their Christmas wish lists on those cards. Maybe you're well past that time of your life, or maybe you don't have any children in your life, but you have some wonderful friends and family. You could have friends and family write on those cards what the Christmas means to them, or some of their maybe favorite Christmas or holiday memories. So if you wanted to write on them, they work well. But then if you didn't want to do any writing and you just wanted to add little photos, well, you have a nice base to kind of add your little photo. Maybe mat your photos in some kind of, excuse my reach there. Maybe mat your photos in some kind of just pattern paper, right? You've got plenty in the 6x8 pad. And then you just have your little photos and you've got your fun little book. Okay, so we've got those. I'm going to grab a smaller hole punch here. Grab a smaller hole punch just because those holes are a little bit smaller. And we'll just, and I don't need to use all of these, but I might as well, right? We might as well just get those things all punched at the same time. Again, kind of all about assembly line, all about assembly line. If you do all of this as part of a process, I'm very much about process. If you do all of this as part of a process, then it makes it so much easier when you are ready to play. Even if you know what would even be fun? Oh, how about this? Maybe, you can tell I just thought of that one. Maybe you have a group of friends or maybe relatives that you get together with in the holidays. This would be a really fun craft project to do with a group. You could do, again, if you wanted to do all the pre-stamping for everyone, and everyone would have maybe a 6x8 pad that they could cut up to decorate with, or maybe a 12x12 sticker sheet that they could cut up to decorate with, or you start opening a bunch of, a couple of different ephemera packs. You have the little clipboards all pre-made for each person. And then you're just having fun decorating and putting your little mini books or your mini tag books or your mini clipboard books together. There are a lot of different ways. I think you could take a project like this, especially if you are working with a 6x8 pad because there's so much that you can get out of a 6x8 pad. In the Simple Stories 6x8 pads, there are 2 sheets each of 12 different designs. So that means is you have 2 of the tag sheets that I've just cut apart. You also have 2 of these little journal element pieces that I've cut apart, 2 sheets of those. So just those 2 papers right there could go pretty far. They could go pretty far as you are kind of getting things ready to have friends maybe play with. Okay, so there we go. That's that part. Now I'd like to pull in some die cuts, some bits and pieces from the collection. Oh, I was so organized over here. And now it is a bit of a mess, isn't it? Okay, let's move these guys out of the way. These guys out of the way. Oh, here we go. All right, I have pulled the sentiments bits, the layered bits, and the bits and pieces. So there are a lot of pieces in these 3 packs, right? 52, 15. These are a little bit more involved, a little bit larger, and then 55. So between these 3, I really could just go to town finding pieces that would fit as maybe a little bit longer or a little bit wider pieces to go underneath my tag. So let's start out with these guys. Let's start out with the sentiment bits. And I might just decide, since these are pretty decorative, and I'll still decorate the little clipboards too, but let's look and see here. Like, look at that, Joy. Wouldn't that be fun? So if we're starting, what if we take Joy and we just need to punch that hole. So Joy is from the sentiment bits. Punch the hole in Joy, and then maybe we'll add this cute little deer underneath that, like that. And those would go on our ring. So let's get this kind of our little thing set here. There we go there, and then there. And then these 2 guys behind. And let's just grab our little ring and see how that is starting to pan out. All right, there we go. As we open that, there's our little Joy. There's a little tag. And then there is our clipboard. So the process, I am just going to continue to build those little guys out. I'll do a few more here on camera. And then I will spend a little bit more time kind of putting the rest of this together. And then I will show you, I'll come back and show you what it looks like when we're done. So that is the back side. So we need another tag. Here's my stack of tags. So I want to kind of maybe pull in some different colors, right? We want to pull in some different colors because let's put a green one here. And then what else might we have over here in the sentiments bits? I think the sentiment bits are a little bit fun to work with. We just need to make sure we can find ones that will work, right? Like, so holly will work. I just need to make sure there's enough space for me to punch a hole. So holly will work as well. And then we'll put another little tag on. How about this guy? The 12 plus 25 equals Christmas. And then those will go my stack here, just as I'm kind of making my stack. I'll continue to stack things up and continue through that process. Now, the other thing that I want to kind of talk about or show as we are working on these tags, I would like to then decorate the base of the tag, right? We have some fun little things that are in between each of our tags, but I think it'd be really fun to decorate the base of the tags as well. So again, we're kind of talking about assembly line. I could go with some consistent elements across each tag to make it easy. I have pulled the washi from Simple Vintage Holly Jolly. So all 5 of those rolls come in one package. So you have a nice assortment of size. You have 2 small sizes and you have 2 kind of your standard width. So 2 narrow, 3 standard width, different colors, different patterns. So I can either use one piece or I could use maybe 2 together and layer. So let's look at, why don't we on this guy do let's do this. Let's do this. I'm totally indecisive here. Let's go back to this one. This is what I was thinking. That is just that fun red plaid. So we're going to give ourselves a little bit of a border here along the bottom. And I'll cut that. Or if I wanted, I could have this just go right on over to that back side. That's probably easy, right? Then I'm done with that little guy. So add a little bit of washi, and then, excuse me, I'd like to add a sticker. So when it comes to stickers, there are two options for stickers in the Holly Jolly collection. You have the sticker book. Okay, sticker book has 12 sheets, 314 stickers. So lots and lots of icons and labels and word strips and things like that. Or you could opt with something like this, the 12 by 12 sticker sheet. So no right or wrong. You just decide whatever it is that you would like to use. So let's go to the sticker book. I want to be keeping in mind what tags I have on top. So those two tags are on top. So I could definitely add, why don't we just start right off with our cute little Santa? Pull my little Santa off there, and Santa, we'll just put Santa let's put Santa right there front and center, all right? And then I would continue through that process for the rest of my tags. I do want to add, for certain, something along the bottom of each tag, just to kind of add a little bit of a decorative element, right? So maybe here, I'll add that little guy, and let's see what else we might add. Another little character or icon. How about if we add one of these? Ooh, how about this little cute snowman? This little cute snowman right down in the lower left-hand corner of that sheet. So we'll just maybe pop him right there. So just then taking our stickers, taking our little tags, taking our die cuts. We've been working with the sentiment die cuts and just getting each of these little tags ready to roll. Okay, so I am off to a great start. I am going to work on finishing all these little tags, and I'll be back very shortly and show you how it all turned out. All right, so just like that, I snapped my fingers and I'm done. Oh my goodness, don't you wish it was that easy to complete a project, right? You know what I'm talking about. Anyhow, just all joking aside, this was a very simple project to put together. So now that it's done, and now that all the mess is cleaned up, let's take a look at how it turned out. So it is a nice chunky, I don't know, I'd say about an 1.5 inches or so. I have quite a few tags in there that we'll take a look at. So what I ended up doing was adding a couple of metal numbers on there, a metal star. And as we just start to look through, I did add all of those pieces to that top clear acetate piece, just so that you're not seeing a lot of dimension in between the cover, right? And then the paper cover. I ended up adding 4 different colors of little pom-pom trim, and you'll see those as we go. As I worked through those, I ended up decorating the back sides of many of those cards. So that's the back side of the cover. And then we have all the little pieces, just the fun little danglies, if you will, in between for each of the clipboard tags. As I showed as I was putting the project together, I have sandwiched 2 library cards, one printed in green, one printed in red, between 2 different stamped clips. And I used 5 or 6 different pieces of pattern paper from that simple vintage Holly Jolly collection. But as you can see, each tag has room for writing. In some cases has room for smaller photos, just depending on really what you would like to use this little project for. This would be a fun thing too if you have family get-togethers over the holidays, maybe to do something like this and give a card or one of the clipboard tags to each member of your family and have them write down their favorite memory from the holiday season. Have them write down maybe some of the things that they received for Christmas. Even if you have youngers, littles in your life, give them a card and just give them a pen or pencil and let them write. I think that's one of the funnest things about doing a project like this is getting, getting other people's voices in your projects. And the way that you do that would be by giving one of these little clipboard tags to someone and asking them to fill it out. So there is my second little pom-pom, the green. If I'm printing small photos, I can certainly, print small photos to put on there. I have linked in the description box of the video as well to two videos, actually. One video on how you can use a free app called Project Life to print your smaller photos, basically on a 4x6. You're printing everything on a 4x6 photo, but the smaller photos you're putting onto the 4x6 and then cutting apart. And then I've also included a link to the, set that down maybe, included a link to the video here on my YouTube channel that I did describing you or walking you through using the Epson Creative Print app, the free app, and an Epson printer to make smaller photos as well. So a couple of different options on how you can do that. But such a fun project, very fun to put together. And honestly, and I know you'll probably laugh, but really it did not take a significant amount of time because I was kind of doing assembly line work like we talked about and like I showed you in the video, doing that assembly line work ahead of time as I created my little clipboard tags. Then really I just used a couple of different products from that Simple Vintage Holly Jolly collection to put all of that together. So I hope that you have enjoyed that little free class. Take what you have and put something like that together, or purchase any of those products from my website and have fun just doing something for yourself for the holidays. Now, I did want to show you one more thing that I had referenced. I had kind of talked about briefly during the class. I made a similar little clipboard tag book for Thanksgiving. So my thought here as I did that for Thanksgiving, I have done the similar tags. And I am going to, on Thanksgiving, fill my tag out for the things that I am grateful for this season. I have room also to add photos. I could take photos and then print them out, create them as little pages in between each of these. But I'm going to do the same. I'm going to give a card to my husband and have him do that. I am going to give a card to our older son, Jack. He and his fiance will be in town for the holidays. So her name is Kat, same thing. I will do the same thing with Sam, our younger son. And I even made some additional cards that maybe I want to write a little bit more about the things I'm thankful for during this season, but I've also left room on these cards for some photos. So I could take some photos on Thanksgiving and add them to that as well. So just kind of a nice little keepsake to document what the different people in our family are thankful for, are thankful for this holiday season. I used products from the Simple Stories Cider and Donuts collection to do that, and really just used stickers, a couple of die cuts, and then some 6x8 paper. But you'll notice the exact same format that I used in that Christmas clipboard tag book, using the library card stamp for a base, and then stamping and die cutting those that little clip. Okay, friends, I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions about anything that I have done, please go ahead and leave a comment on the video, or go ahead, go to my website at laylebymail.com and click Contact Us. As a reminder, I have included a link in the description box below of the different products that I have used to put those projects together. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.